Good afternoon, HMS Bobcats. Mr. Flato here. Welcome back to another great week at D. Helena Middle School. This week's Bob lesson, something I've been thinking about for a while when I'm out at recess, observing you all in your social realm and your social dynamics, the different groupings of students. One of my favorite things about HMS is all the different groups of students. One of my favorite things to tell new students when I meet with them and they come into our building is I promise you, you'll be able to find your group. We have a wide, diverse group of kids at our building who, for the most part, are unabashedly not afraid to be who they really are. And that is one of my favorite things. And that's the core of what this Bob lesson is about today. This Bob lesson's a little bit outside of the box. And I was thinking about it for a while, and I ran the idea by a couple of sixth graders last week, and they gave me the go ahead. Yes, you should put it together and do it. So here we are. This Bob lesson is kind of comparing emperor penguins and the way that they act in the Antarctic for survival, and kind of comparing it to some of the things socially some of our middle schoolers do for survival and how. And I'm understanding why we do that. We all do that as human beings. This need to belong, this need to have some people for social survival, but how really that can be a little bit dangerous and some bad things can come from that. How our ultimate goal, hopefully, is to just be the best version of your authentic self you can be Bob. Everything always comes back to being Bob, being the best version of yourself. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you all have a great week. All right, we are off and run on this week's Bob lesson. Middle schoolers are like penguins. But first, let's be our best this week at HMS. And that's what this Bob lesson is all about, is being our best authentic version of ourselves. Let's be safe, let's be responsible, let's be respectful, let's be a learner.
Their only protection from the cold is their parents' brood pouch. But as winter storms set in, this isn't enough. As temperatures reach 40 below, even the adults' only chance of survival is to huddle together. They start to waddle with a single purpose. All converge on the same central point until a huddle begins to form. Each penguin must find a place to tuck in. But by speeding up the action, it's clear that something more organized is going on. Soon, the huddle numbers thousands, and still more keep coming. While those on the outside take the brunt of the storm, those on the inside take tiny steps that move the huddle in waves. The densely packed penguins continue to shift and rotate from the center. By keeping constantly on the move, no penguin is left permanently out in the cold.
So to kind of drive home what I'm getting at here today, I kind of got it paused here so we can take a deeper look at these emperor penguins. Again, they live in the Antarctic where it's brutally, brutally cold. It gets so cold at points where literally in order for survival, they have to huddle together, use each other's body heat, and shield each other from the harsh temperatures. And they do it in an orderly fashion where they rotate so nobody is ever out on the outside. These are a species that work together for survival. To be independent of the group, if you were an emperor penguin, when it gets super, super cold, would most certainly mean death. You could not survive out there on your own. So surely by this point, you're probably asking yourself, Mr. Flato, what do penguins have to do with middle school students? Well, I wanted to share some of my observations over the last decade or so being around middle school students. Human nature tells all of us, not only middle school students, but adults as well, that we need to be a part of a crowd, not for our physical survival from the elements, but for social survival, right? If the pandemic taught us anything, it's that we are very much social creatures. When you tell us to stay away from one another, it leads to mental health issues, it leads to happiness issues, etc. Not only that, but we need one another for supplies, for food, for all of those survival things as well. But when I look at middle school students, I think about social survival. We all need a crowd where we feel like we belong in. That's just a need. Some of us need a bigger crowd, some of us need maybe a smaller crowd, but I think we all need at least one or two close friends that we can call our people. To be left out of the crowd and to be alone or ostracized. Ostracized basically means you're forced out of a group, can mean social death a lot of times, not death in the literal term, but very bad socially happening things for middle school students. So what is the problem with this? We need social groups, we need friendships, but what are some of the issues with middle school students acting like penguins? Well, this can lead to a lack of originality. And like I said in the intro, we have so many kids. One of my favorite things about HMS is I feel like this is an environment where everybody can just be who they are and be accepted. And this isn't the case at a lot of middle schools. This isn't the case in a lot of parts of society or even parts of the world. And when we feel like we need to be huddled together in a group and we all need to look the same, act the same for survival, a lot of times that can lead to a lack of originality. I'm always going to say, be the best version of yourself you can be. That's what we should really strive for in life. This can also lead to a lack of being true to oneself in fear of not being accepted. If I want to be accepted by that group of penguins over there so I'm not left out in the cold, that's a metaphor, then there's a fear that I might not, if I act different or if I don't act like the rest of the group, then there's a chance that I might not be accepted and I might not be a part of the group. That's definitely problematic. This can also lead to making poor decisions due to social influence. If you're being a part of a social group where you don't really feel like it's authentic or you don't really feel like you belong, and that can lead to, or even if you do feel like you belong, but you don't want to be ostracized from the group and you get peer pressured, that can lead to poor social influences where we're not making our best decisions and we're not being the best version of ourselves we can be. So, what should we be striving for? I'm always going to say this over and over again. And this is something that when I was putting this Bob lesson together, I thought about how middle school students really band together and they don't want to stick out and they just need to be a part of a group of penguins so they don't freeze to death out there in the Antarctic. And what you'll start to see as you move into high school and you get a little bit older, which I love it when I start seeing it in middle school, is when kids have the courage to just be the best version of your authentic self you can possibly be, right? Be true to who you are. Now, for a lot of you, you're still trying to figure that thing out. And, you know, that psychosocial stage, they say it goes from 12 to 19. I think it goes longer than that. But that's one of the cool things for me, observing middle schoolers from 6th to 7th to 8th grade, is I slowly get to watch that process happen with each and every one of you. And it's exciting when that happens. And that's where I'm always going to encourage people to be the best version of your authentic self you can possibly be. And if you do that, I promise you the right friendships and the right peers will recognize you for who you really are. They will find you and you will have more fulfilling, authentic, and enriched friendships because of it. All right, that brings us to this week's quote of the week, which is why fit in when you're born to stand out. That's Jerry Spinelli. That's also a quote from Dr. Seuss, but totally fitting. All right, this week's Jelly Bean question of the week winners: Emily League, Maddox Horton, Shada Kuhn, Calvin Mokstead, Cale Covey, and Derek Wilson. The answer was 19 possible rooms in the hotel that could be theirs. All right, this week's Jelly Bean question of the week comes from Erin Anderson. She shared this one with me. How do you fit 100 math teachers into a room that only holds 99 people? Hint, math teachers, hint, think long division. There's a term in there. If you think you know, submit your answer to the Bob box. Get it turned in by the end of the week and tune in next week to see if you're a winner. All right, Bobcats, let's make it a great week at the Helena Middle School.